Welcome to Rich Talk, where we keep the conversation going.
The host of this episode,
Shayler, Chris, Dane.
The culture of curation.
What's up, y'all? We back in the lab with another great episode of Rich Talk playing for you all. Today, I got my people with me. What's up?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We got a new face in the building. Mac, how you doing today? Nervous?
I'm cold.
You cold? Okay. We can try to warm you up with the combo. We'll see how that goes. Dame, you ain't been in the studio in a minute. What's up with you?
I did my 2 episodes, had to pop back for some more, so we're back at it again.
Yes, sir.
You already know. All right. So today we're gonna start off with talking about the culture of curation topic, which is storytelling, poetry, and songwriting. So I guess let's start with Chris. You've been a songwriter. You've been a rapper. What is that process like for you, and what is the most important part of that process?
I feel like for me personally, it's just about the feeling.
Okay.
I don't know when it'll come, why it will come. It's just a feeling. So like, if I just decide to listen to some beats someday, and some days I might just feel like burn people to death. Some days I might just feel a story or something that's just resonating with me at the moment. And sometimes it comes out good, sometimes it don't. That's just how I kind of do music. That's why I don't put out a lot of music at a rapid pace, just because for me it's a seasonal thing. It kind of just works when I'm feeling it. I don't ever try to force it. So it's just a feeling thing. Like, I think that's the best thing about music, is the fact that it's an outlet, or even not even just music, but songwriting, music, poetry, anything of that nature, even journalism. It's just an outlet to take the words that are going on in your head and structure them in a way that will resonate with other people, because it's not specifically for you.
Right.
Even though you are making it for you, you still putting it in a art form that other people can see it or hear it and feel it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing for me. So I feel like if I don't feel the music I'm making, I don't want to make it. That's why they always say you can tell who's real in their raps, because you can feel it. You can feel somebody's pain.
Right.
Like, if a song ain't giving you chills when you hear a song that's supposed to give you chills, you're not gonna feel it. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like it's just about a feeling to me.
I would definitely say you're very lyrical, so I definitely get that from your music, and I want people to hear more of your music. But Mac, you are a poet, and I've heard you spit, and when you spit, the audience feels you. What is that process like for you?
For me personally, I don't have a process.
Okay.
I think it just kind of appears.
Okay.
And I capture it. I'm a photographer.
Okay.
I'm also a videographer.
Okay.
And so that's my foundation of things, and I think that's how my brain kind of is working.
Okay.
So maybe that's my process, is I see this thing and then I transfer it downward onto my phone, or it's always my phone.
Okay, so you see this thing and you capture it. So when you're delivering it, are you relaying that moment back to people?
Oh no, that's the engine. That's the magic of it all. That's the engineering. That's the me part of it that goes into it. And I think everybody has
delivery. Is that what you're talking about? Okay.
The performance of it and how you give it off.
I agree.
Yeah, everyone has their own thing.
Like, I think we said the same thing essentially. I like that.
So what goes into your delivery? How do you channel that moment into the performance?
So usually what I write, it comes from my past or like some part of my trauma. Like I think that's the stories I tell are always my own, ones that I've experienced, because I trouble telling other people's stories, because I obsess over details. Like what happened here, I don't know. So I don't really tell those stories, but if I am very close to a story, then it's easy for me to tell them. So when I deliver those stories, it's easy for me to channel that, because it's me. I know exactly how I felt. I know exactly what I went through. I know exactly the pain I felt in that exact moment, the liberty I felt in this other moment, the happiness I felt, you know, it's all there. It all comes from inside of me.
Both of you, I want y'all to answer this. As far as the vulnerability component of it, like, how does that feel for you all being so transparent and being so wide open to be perceived and received?
I would say refreshing. For me, like, I've not like I don't have that outlet. I don't really have that outlet. I also stumble over my words a lot, so it's hard for me to like speak in regular conversations, and I get really awkward. So when I get on stage, it's like, oh, finally I get to unpack. This is it's like therapy for me actually. It's like when I get on stage, it's very therapeutic. I really get to heal on stage, and everybody gets to see, you know, I'm healing.
I think I feel the same way. I feel like it's almost like it's just moments in your life when it's just like, I don't care. I don't care how you feel. I don't care how you think. This is me. And I think that's what it is. That's what's so refreshing. It's not primal, but it's almost just like who you're meant to be in a moment.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like when I do my music, like I said, it's a feeling thing. Like if I'm feeling the music today, some days I might just make something just because it sounds good or it's fun. But some days it's just personal, and it's almost like a basketball player getting in the zone. You just in a moment of being you, and you don't care what nobody else got to say or how they feel. Some people might perceive it this way. Some people might perceive it differently. But you knew for you were being you. And that's the art form. I think that's why, like, Basquiat or any artist, like, you don't even got to be famous. Like, you're being you.
And people are receiving it, and like people are enjoying it.
Exactly.
Right?
And I think that's the best part about it. It's just that is refreshing, because it's like, it's refreshing enough for myself. Like I would assume for you, like when you do it, it's almost for yourself, and then it's like, I accept it with myself. Excuse me. And this should be shared. You know what I'm saying?
It should be.
It's
shared.
like writing in a diary and being like, you know what, this is good enough for somebody else to read, because it might help them too, type thing, you know. Okay. And I think it is refreshing.
Like extending that personal experience, that personal moment beyond yourself.
Yeah, it's nice to know that
beautiful.
You're not the only person going through something. I think that's why I like J. Cole so much. He feel like a normal person.
Love J. Cole. Dang. You spend a lot of time interviewing rappers. You ask them a lot of questions. You get a lot of people who tell stories in their own unique ways in front of you. What are some trends that you've noticed between the people that you've interviewed, or some common threads about those different rappers?
As far as like the music process and their creative process, because that's something I always ask about. A lot of them aren't the same. Like their processes are different. They vary wildly, but everyone pretty much is similar in they get to the studio and they do whatever it is to make them comfortable. Like it's almost the same. It might be the same type of situation every time, but it's like what gets them into their comfort zone and just ready to share. Like some of them, it would be like they have to have their friends there. Some of them, they have to like have a kick it. They have to be drinking. They have to be smoking. They have to just be feeling some vibes. Some of them, it has to literally be a party in the studio. And because of like, that might depend on the type of music they make. Right. And then there's some people who they can have people in the studio, but they don't want anybody hearing what they saying while they're recording. Or maybe they need the lights off. It's all the same. Artists are weird. That's what I've noticed. Like artists are weird, and they have very odd requests. You might hear them like, that makes no sense, but they do it, and when they don't do it, the results aren't good.
I think I understand it. Like, it's funny because like you just kind of made me understand myself, because I make interpersonal music, and you're usually going to be an interpersonal person when you're by yourself. So I will understand somebody who needs people around if they make party music. You put yourself in the vibration that you're trying to create. You like, I'm not about to have a bunch of people in the studio with me drinking and smoking and having a good time, and I'm trying to talk about my grandma that just passed,
Yeah.
or my uncle that just passed, or my, you know what I'm saying? Anything like it's just gonna
Right.
feel weird, cause then I'm gonna be ready to be like, bro, shut up, like,
Right.
like I'm going through something right now. You know what I'm saying? So that's
Right.
crazy because like we do like dive into a vibration.
Yeah.
I think that's what I like. My man's has done some weird stuff lately, but I think that's the beauty of Kanye West. I feel like if people really sit down and take the time to see how different he has changed, it's not necessarily because it's like, yeah, times do change, but his ability to dive into a certain vibration and then create it into his own.
He commits.
He commits to
He
something.
commits.
So it's just like I think that's what makes us weird because it's just like how can you like actors are weird.
Yeah.
Like you will go from being 210 pounds, looking healthy, lean, like you know what I'm saying, to I'm about to weigh 160 for this movie and act like I'm decrepit and about to die and I'm sick. Like
Commitment.
it's a different level of commitment for
Yeah.
artists, and that's part of the refreshing part because it's like I'm committing to this moment, to this feeling, to this pain, to this happiness, or anything of that nature, and I'm just gonna deal with the outcome.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's definitely a big way. Storytelling, poetry, songwriting. I think that there are big ways of channeling energy from one place to another, and the people that are allowed to or are able to receive that energy as it transmits from one place to another, I think that they are in tune, transmitted from a place to another.
That's
If
true.
they truly sit in it and receive it, and if the artist is really accomplishing what they set out to accomplish, then that happens because you don't, just like with you when you're with a friend and you experience something together, you all are both transformed. So when you're sitting and you're receiving some art from someone else, or you're reading a story that you see,
It does transform.
it transforms you.
I think that's dope, bro.
That's good art.
That's what Sean was. Sean kind of like reminded me of something I used to do, and he was like, "I'm tailoring my life around love right now because I want a love life." So he's like, "I'm reading romantic books," and he was like, "I've made music playlists specifically for what I want right now." And it just reminded me. I was like, "Man, I used to make a lot of playlists for specific type of vibrations," and it's crazy because that is really what it is. Like you're tuning yourself into a certain vibration, and that's why like cadence is important and
Yeah.
delivery is important. Like you speak poetry, so like I'm sure that, or I would assume that you bring different cadences when you are trying to portray a different type of message. Because
Some
it's,
poems I don't even use my words. There's one poem where I just kind of stand there and I just don't talk, and that's my cadence. You know, I don't say anything, and I think that like what you're saying is I'm reflecting as you're like talking about a lot of things. I'm reflecting all over the place, and I think that's really interesting. Like when you talk about frequencies, like I'll actually listen to just frequencies on YouTube sometimes, like not music, just like they'll upload like frequencies like 148 hertz.
no, that's a fact. I do that too.
I love listening to just like those. It like really helps me cleanse and like clear my head because man, there's so much going on all the time in the world, and that on top of like dealing with your own personal shit. Am I allowed to play this?
Of course.
Okay. But yeah, your own personal shit. It's a lot to unpack, but I think like some frequencies when you tap into them, you can really ride this highway to serenity for 3 minutes, however long it takes. The song works. Sometimes they're an hour.
Yeah. It's that serenity, and that serenity is reached because you're in the moment of transcension. Like you're in that moment of transcension.
Yeah,
Like
I feel like a magician.
you're in between. Like I'm nowhere. I'm just in this moment.
Yeah.
Like I'm just here.
It's magical.
I'm just here.
It's just really like I feel like anybody is capable of it. Everybody does it in their own way, but it's literally just the ability for like for like poets and people who make music, if it's 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, the ability to manipulate a vibration, a frequency, a space and time that I can give to a certain type of people, and they will automatically get in tune with that vibration. Because we already know what vibrations do to water, and your body is made of 80% water. So that's why music is so powerful in itself scientifically. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like the ability to manipulate a vibration and make somebody feel what I'm feeling, even if they weren't feeling that at that moment. Because you know, it's some songs right now, you could be in a great mood, but if you turn on, you're going to be like, bro, I can't hear that right now. I'm going to get sad.
Right.
Because they manipulated that vibration so well that you know what it's going to do to you personally.
Yeah.
And I think it's magical. I love that aspect of it. So,
Even when it comes down to this episode specifically, this energy that I'm feeling on this episode is different than any other energy that I felt on any other episode. It's just because we're in a different space. Like, we've been delivering the story versus talking about how the story is delivered, and I think that's a completely different space to be in. Like, I'm happy to be here. This is that transition moment for me. But let's go ahead and transition to some stuff we can get off our chest.
Get it off your chest.
So this is something that's just entrenched in who we are up here. But I think it's something that we all should spend a little bit more time discussing. So we're going to go ahead and get off our chest masculinity and just kind of unpack that and talk about what masculinity is to us. Who would like to hop in first?
Now you know you.
I go first.
I'm good.
Go ahead, man.
When I hear this topic, I personally just feel like there's two different views on it, but they're held by the same people. And like, let me try to make this make sense. So I feel like people view masculinity one way and how it should be and how a masculine person should perform in life until certain situations. And then it's like masculinity should not be performed this way. And I just feel like it's a lot of.
Can you speak about the people who hold this
Yeah, let me
view?
let me break it down a little more.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's say about I feel like the people who say that men should not cry.
Who are these people?
Come on, we know who you're talking about.
All right. So look, women.
Okay.
All right now.
Also, like, but it's I feel it as like a cultural thing though, cause like it's women, cause they push the culture in this aspect, like opinions on masculinity.
Okay.
So yeah, in that aspect, women. But okay,
Women told you that you shouldn't cry.
there are women that will say you should not cry. Your mother, your grandmother.
I'll
Okay.
keep that from my men in my family.
I will say,
Make sure you.
Oh,
I will Dog, I will say, I think it's more so of, because I do that with my son too, but I don't do it in a sense, like if it's something really wrong, then I would be like, okay, you know what I'm saying? But if like he just crying because he want to get his way, I'm like, all right, that's not necessary. I feel like as we start to date, I think that's kind of the backlash where it's more of a, oh, it's okay to cry. It's okay to open up to me. But then when you do it, it's more so of a problem. I feel like when we're children and we're growing, I don't think people tell us not to cry in the sense that like you don't deserve to cry. I think it's more so of a sense of just as a parent speaking, I think it's more so of a sense of everything ain't worthy of that dramatic of a reaction. You don't have to cry to everything. So I don't think it's a, oh, you shouldn't cry, boys don't cry. I think for somehow, some way, it became a negative connotation.
did you cry?
Oh yeah, I don't, what? In a heartbeat. Because it's like, if I'm sad, bro, I'm gonna be sad. If you can't respect me being sad as a human being, then I don't need nothing to do with you. That's just period. I don't care who you is, because it's not fair. As a human being, that is not fair. Everybody is entitled to cry if you feel sad. Now, if it's something minute, And you as like there are social standards and there are things that we just deem not that big of a deal.
But where that gets tricky, what's small for us is that small
for another
women.
person.
Like
yeah, that's true.
that be
true.
the thing. It's like, can we actually cry, or is it only when you say that it's okay?
So
can I actually have feelings, or only when you feel like those feelings align with what you think masculinity is?
Though I do agree with you, I have to say as a person that used to be a simp, men gotta take accountability too. Because just as much we say women gotta set the standard, women set the structure, you gotta set a structure too. If I can't cry in front of you, then I can't be with you. That's just period for me. Because then that means you're not willing to accept all of me. I can be happy. I can spend my money. I can give you my time. But I'm sad and I can't cry. What do we got time for? Because that's not fair to me. Because you going to want me to be there when you cry. So I think that's upon men too. Women have to make it more comfortable for us. And we have to make some things more comfortable for them. But I have to be able to cry. Because
are you talking like in like a relationship, or are you like
anything,
like just like
in life, but anything,
boys and girls?
In life general, in general, you can say in general, because if you any relationship you have, not even just significant other, but like friendships as well, if you consider somebody a true friend to you and you can't cry in front of that person and spill yourself, you're not gonna want to talk to them.
I like that.
Because you're not accepting all of me. You just accepting what you have time for, and that's not fair to me. So if you don't have time for me, I'm not gonna take it. I'm not gonna be offended. You just don't have time for me, so now I don't have time for you. Because you don't understand the importance of my feelings.
And so how do we tie that back to your idea about masculinity and
it's all just
as
the point of the masculinity is just a huge double, I don't want to say double standard, but it's a double meaning depending on
it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, depending on the situation.
I agree.
Like, it's like
the social norm makes it a double-edged sword.
Yeah, and it's like,
I give you that.
I feel like, okay, people who have certain social norms, certain social norms, like expectations, they have other expectations that contradict the other ones, and that's how I feel masculinity is handled. There are a lot of contradicting standards about it that makes the whole thing very confusing.
Yeah,
like,
because I think I get what you're touching on, because there's a problem with men being too oppressive with women, but at the same time there are
like
mixed signals
back.
Because it's like if you aren't sometimes, and I'm just being honest from being in relationships, sometimes if you aren't not overpowering to the point where it's a outright just like, oh, you're being abusive, but just like showing your dominance all the time.
Macho.
Yeah, if you're not being macho all the time, it's not enough. And then when you step back and it's like, okay, I'm
Vulnerable.
gonna meet you in the middle and be a little more vulnerable, then it's like you're taken advantage of. So I can understand what you're saying there. But at that same time, that's why I was trying to say that we have to take that accountability as men. Like, okay, y'all set a certain standard. He need to have this type of money. He need to treat you this type of way. Bro, I understand what it's like being a man, but like, you ain't gotta have sex with everybody. Like, you don't. So it's just like, I set myself to a standard a long time ago. Like, if you can't, if that's not specifically what I'm looking for with you, if you can't understand me as a person, because I'm gonna go through this life as a person, then there's nothing to talk about. Because I wouldn't do that to you. I'm only going to do unto somebody that I want done unto me. And if I'm choosing to spend the rest of my life with you, have kids with you, if I can't cry, be mad, be happy, be sad, be irritated, or be any emotion that we were gifted with from God, then what are we doing?
Okay, so I've been sitting us out for a little bit because I just wanted to hear your perspectives. And I think that what was most interesting for me was to hear what you all are attaching masculinity to. Thus far, I've heard masculinity is attached to our relationship with women, our ability to express emotions, and our whom we how often we have sex. Like those are the three things that I've heard as far as masculinity is attached to, and how we determine our masculinity. So my next question is, and I'll go first, but I want to hear your personal definition of what it means to be a man outside of any exterior thing. Um, so for me, I guess I would say my masculinity is comprised of my strength, I guess, like, and how I carry myself. When it comes to me being a man, I feel like I have a certain duty as far as a responsibility. My duty is my responsibility to set the standard for myself and for the men and boys that are following me. I think that that's where I find my masculinity, and that's where I define my masculinity. I think anything beyond that is just things working on masculinity and working to shape masculinity versus me just being masculine. I do identify myself as masculine. I think that society tries to put these definitions on masculinity that are situational and conditional. But I think that what a man is very basic. I don't think that all these other things go into what makes a man masculine. I think that it's very simple, and I think that it's just about how we operate. And I do think that it goes back to your strength as far as not strength as far as let me bear the brunt of everything, but your strength to lean into opportunities to be vulnerable, even though the men before you may have not said, okay, this is something that we traditionally do, or even if women have not created space for you to be vulnerable, deciding to be vulnerable anyway because you deserve it. As a man, like, this is what I deserve because I'm a human being, like you said. I'm going to enter this world as a human being, and I'm going to exist in this world as a human being. So I'm entitled to that same degree of vulnerability and that strength of counteracting all of the stereotypes and the negative rhetoric that says that I can't be vulnerable. Because if you say that your masculinity is your vulnerability, then you're being masculine. So that's what I would say. I would say the strength, and I would say that it's tied to the strength, and that it's also tied to setting an example for the men and boys who look to me, because I think that it's important for me to show them that a man is not defined by what society thinks of him. A man is defined by himself and how he carries himself and how he presents himself in the world. Go ahead, Matt.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't feel like included in the conversation, not like as
No.
like exploited type of. I just feel like it's impossible to have a conversation for me personally about masculinity without also talking about femininity, and talking about queer politics and talking about blackness at the same time.
Talk about it.
Personally, I feel like if we're going to talk about masculinity, then we should definitely talk about the way that it comes off as gender, because you mentioned setting an example for boys that look up to you, but boys aren't the only ones looking up to you, and that's not even like your flaw or anything. It's just girls are looking up to you too. Everyone is looking towards everyone, no matter who you are or no matter what your politics are or what your identity may be. Everyone is looking at you.
That's true.
As a possible role model. And so when you are setting these examples, not you personally, but like when we are setting examples for what we think masculinity is, I don't actually identify myself as, I don't know how to like say I'm a man, like, because I feel like I'm a child, but I'm still working on that, growing up and like feeling like, who am I, in this world. But I do think like there's always a pride that comes along with masculinity, and I don't feel like I have that pride. And so when I feel like I don't have that pride, I think it's hard for me to call myself this masculine man, because I don't really find the pride there. I grew up a different way. Maybe you guys grew up.
Let me hop in, and I would say that it's not necessarily about. I mean, I think the pride comes from you defining masculinity for yourself. I think that that's where the pride comes from. And once you are able to do that, then you will be prideful in yourself, because you will attach your masculinity to who you are.
And right, like
Yeah.
I personally find pride in other things like being queer. So I
Yeah,
don't find
yeah.
I don't find pride in like I don't really understand like the conversations when it comes to, I've never been in a relationship either. So I don't understand like the conversation twice because I've never been in a relationship and
No,
I've
I
never
don't
been in a
think- I
relationship
don't
with
think-
a
I don't-
with a
I
woman.
Your masculinity isn't attached to your
Yeah,
relationship.
I don't think.
But I also want to apologize. I want to apologize to not. I want to apologize for not mentioning women in my speech about what masculinity is to me. Thank you for bringing up femininity, because like I do feel, and this is something that I harp on. But sometimes getting wrapped up in the conversation with men about men, that male privilege, when women are not included in that conversation. And I think that it's important to center men when we're having those masculine conversations. But I thank you for bringing women back to the center as well, because my masculinity is also tied to showing up for black women, and creating space for black women. I don't feel like as a man, and that's all tied to, I bring it back to the strength. I think strength can be positioned in numerous ways. I think that I'm a strong man because I create space for women, and I support women, and I protect women. So I don't think that we can have a masculinity discussion without creating space for women in that conversation. Because, like Dame was saying originally, women do have a lot of input on, or a lot of views and a lot of opinions on what it means to be masculine, and we do have a responsibility to these women. But when it comes to us forming our personal determination of what masculinity is to us, I don't think that we have to take that into account. I think that we have to form for ourselves what it is. And if you for yourself form that, okay, I'm going to show up for black women, I'm going to show up for women, then that's what masculinity is. And then you have that conversation and you actively do it. But you're not required to bring them into your thought process.
Yeah.
Do you feel like women, do you feel like men own like masculinity? Like do you
So
feel
this
like
is
that's their
so,
thing?
Okay. So this is so I think my thing is I feel like they're just words. Like let's just be honest, they're just words. If somebody has more feminine energy, if somebody has more masculine energy, to me, honestly, whatever you have, to me, is more about being a human being. Yes, there is a such thing as feminine and masculine energy. If you have more of one, if you have more of the other, if you're even, whatever it is, it's your duty to use that energy in the right aspect of life. And that's all that really matters.
Right.
If you have more feminine energy, so you
present in a way that
might not be more masculine, doesn't mean you don't just have just as much to say, or doesn't mean you can't resonate with somebody that's masculine. Like, I've been offended at times because I've had people be like, oh, I can't hang around gay people, I don't have nothing in common with them, and it irritates me because it's like, well, I'm heterosexual, but I have something in common with them. It's called life. Like, what are you talking about? Just because you don't share the same sexual experiences, something that takes 15 to 20 minutes out of a 24-hour day, has nothing to do with the rest of their life.
Right.
So that doesn't mean you don't relate to somebody. So you can have more or one or the other. You don't have to define what your masculine. You are who you are. If you feel like you masculine, if one day you be like, man, I paid for my mama rent, and you feel masculine, then my nigga, you masculine. It don't matter what everybody else think. If you say, if I hold my girlfriend in the night, is they gonna be like, oh, that's his feminine energy, or is that my masculine energy?
Right.
Which one is it?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it don't really matter, bro. Just use your powers of having the ability to be feminine and having the ability to be masculine, because we both men and women, transgender, who you are, have the ability to do both, and using them in the right aspect of life. That's all they come down to.
Yeah. It's a slippery slope when we discuss masculinity, or when it's a slippery slope when we discuss masculinity, because we can get caught up in
semantics.
So the semantics and someone else's definition.
Yes.
I think that it's very fluid. I think that it's a very fluid thing. And that's why I wanted us all to present what masculinity was to us individually, just to showcase that being a man is so different. Like, there is no one way to be a man. And that's essentially what I view masculinity is how you are a man. Like, how do you show up as a man in your day-to-day life? I don't think that it's about anything else besides that. And I think that masculinity presents itself in so many different ways. And I think that having these conversations, we need to challenge society to stop trying to define men and allow for men to define themselves, and stop boxing men into one specific narrative, because there will never be one specific narrative. Men will always be as
culture that the world is. That's just the honest truth.
Yes, and some men, just like some other people, like everyone, there's segments of every type of identity who gets stagnant, who reaches a wall where they can't expand beyond this wall. But there's also other people within that same segment who bust down these walls and become all these different things. So don't measure yourself against the next man. Allow yourself to determine who you are for yourself and define masculinity for yourself.
I'm going to sum it up in two ways, my brother.
Please,
and I think
brother.
we all going to agree. Masculinity is what you make it. And the second part is mind your business. It has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
What somebody is choosing to do with their life and somebody else. Mind your business.
Mind your business and stop pushing your rhetoric onto
or
other people.
how you feel about yourself
yes.
onto other people. Just mind your business.
That's the key, brother. Stop pushing your feelings about yourself onto other people. Allow people the space and the support to be the man. We're talking about men. We're talking to men. Where women come into this conversation, give your feedback as much as you want, but
man to man, stop judging each other.
Man to man, stop judging each other and allow for space for men to be the man that they want to be. They don't have to be you, and you don't have to be the next man. All you're accountable for is being the best version of yourself.
And also, you not wanting to be around gay people does not make you homophobic, as long as you respect who they are and their boundaries. You don't have to hang around certain people. If gay people want to just be around gay people, that's fine. If they want to have heterosexual fans, that's fine. And it works vice versa. That doesn't mean that you're homophobic, but be respectful and understand other people's plight and other people's trauma. And that's all it is to it. Mind your business, bro.
But if you go out of your way with your offendedness and you push that on other people and you bring down someone else for being themselves, shame on you. I'm not one to shame people, but shame on you, because you didn't have to go out of your way to make someone else feel uncomfortable just because you're uncomfortable with yourself and how they make you feel. Stop. Allow space for people to be themselves. And that's just straight up. That's rich talk. Make sure you catch the next episode.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for listening to Rich Talk. Make sure you subscribe to our website at richmagdigital.com and follow us on all platforms.